My wife's business trips were actually weekend getaways with her ex. When I found the hotel receipts, I planned the perfect trap. I found the credit card statement by accident, completely by accident. I wasn't snooping, wasn't suspicious, wasn't looking for anything except the damn property tax documents I needed to file our But there it was, mixed in with the stack of financial papers in Natalie's home office filing cabinet, a credit card statement from 2 months ago that changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Hey, Reddit, this is the story of how a single piece of paper unraveled 11 years of what I thought was a solid marriage, and how my wife's mandatory business conferences turned out to be romantic getaways with her college ex-boyfriend. I'm Marcus, 37 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will make you question whether you should ever fully trust anyone. You know that moment when something small catches your eye and your brain tries to dismiss it, but something deeper, some instinct, won't let you look away? That's where this story begins. But let me back up, because to understand how completely blindsided I was, you need to understand what our marriage looked like and why I never had a reason to doubt Natalie. I met Natalie 12 years ago when I was 25 and she was 23. I was working as a junior software engineer at a tech startup in Austin, making about $65,000 a year. Natalie had just graduated and landed a job in pharmaceutical sales, starting at $55,000 with commission potential. We met at a friend's engagement party, connected over shared interests in hiking and travel, and started dating within a week. Natalie was beautiful, driven, ambitious. She had this infectious energy that made everyone around her feel motivated and inspired. She was a natural saleswoman, charismatic, persuasive, genuinely interested in people. She talked about building a successful career, traveling the world, living a life of adventure and accomplishment. I loved her vision and wanted to be part of it. We dated for a year before moving in together. Both our careers were progressing. I'd been promoted to mid-level engineer at $78,000. Natalie was crushing her sales targets and making around $72,000 with commissions. We were young, successful, building something together. At 3 years of dating, I proposed. Natalie said yes immediately. We got married when I was 28 and she was 26. Beautiful wedding at a vineyard, about 150 guests, everything perfect. Our vows included promises about partnership, supporting each other's dreams, and building a life based on trust and honesty. I meant every word. I thought she did. We decided early on that we didn't want children. Both of us were focused on careers, valued our freedom and flexibility, and felt fulfilled by our relationship without adding kids to the equation. This decision was mutual, enthusiastic, and never something we regretted. It meant we had disposable income for travel, hobbies, and a comfortable lifestyle. By year 5 of marriage, we'd bought a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a great neighborhood for $380,000. I was making $95,000 as a senior engineer. Natalie was making around $85,000 in pharmaceutical sales. Combined income of $180,000 gave us a very comfortable life. Nice cars, regular vacations, renovated kitchen, everything we wanted. Natalie's job required occasional travel. Sales conferences, training sessions, regional meetings. Usually she'd be gone for a weekend, sometimes just overnight. It was part of the job. It's something I accepted and supported. She'd come back with stories about boring presentations, networking events, hotel conference rooms that all looked the same. I'd ask about her trips and she'd give details that seemed authentic. The keynote speaker who droned on about market trends, the breakout session on new pharmaceutical regulations, the catered meals that were mediocre at best. I never questioned any of it. Why would I? Natalie was in sales. Travel was part of the job. She was advancing her career, building relationships, learning new strategies. I was proud of her dedication and success. The conferences happened about 4 or 5 times per year, quarterly sales meetings, annual training, regional summits. Each trip was 2 to 3 days, usually Thursday through Saturday or Friday through Sunday. Natalie would pack her business casual clothes, kiss me goodbye, promise to call when she arrived, and head off to whatever city was hosting the event. She'd call or text throughout the weekend. Conference sessions are so boring. Networking dinner running late, learning about new product launches tomorrow. Everything seemed normal, routine, exactly what you'd expect from a pharmaceutical sales conference. This pattern continued for years. By year 8 of our marriage, I'd stopped even thinking about the trips. They were just part of our routine. Natalie gone 4 or 5 weekends per year for work, me staying home, her returning with stories and business cards from people she'd networked with. Marriage seemed solid. We had date nights, took vacations together, maintained an active social life, had good communication about finances and life plan. We'd talk about our 5-year plan, our 10-year plan, retirement goals. Everything felt stable and secure. By year 10, I'd been promoted to lead software engineer making $135,000. Natalie had moved to a senior sales position, making $98,000 with higher commission potential. We were financially comfortable, emotionally connected, building toward a future we both wanted. Or so I thought. 2 months ago, I was in Natalie's home office looking for our property tax documents. We were filing our annual return, and I needed the assessment papers from the county. Natalie handles most of our filing. She's organized and detail-oriented, so her office is where all our important documents live. I opened the filing cabinet, found the folder labeled Property Documents, and started pulling out papers. As I lifted the property tax file, another folder came with it, spilling papers across the desk. Annoyed, I started gathering the scattered documents to refile them. Tax returns, insurance policies, credit card statements, standard financial paperwork. I was shoving everything back into folders when one credit card statement caught my eye. It was from our joint American Express, the card we use for travel and major purchases. The statement was from April 2 months prior. I almost filed it without looking, but something made me glance at the charges. Ritz-Carlton, Atlanta, $1,847.68 for 2 nights. I paused. That seemed expensive for a hotel during a business conference. Usually, Natalie's company booked her into mid-range business hotels, Marriott, Hilton, nothing fancy. Conference attendees didn't stay at the Ritz-Carlton. I looked closer at the itemized charges. Suite accommodation, $450 night x 2 nights, your deep $900. Restaurant charge lure, hotel fine dining, $247 room service, you $138. Couples spa treatment, $420. Champagne service to room, $142.6. My stomach tightened. Couples spa treatment, champagne service. This wasn't a business conference hotel stay. This was a romantic getaway. I pulled up my phone, checked the calendar, April 13-15. That was the weekend Natalie had been at the Southeast Regional Sales Summit in Atlanta. She'd left Friday morning, come back Sunday afternoon, told me about boring PowerPoint presentations and networking dinners at the conference center. But these charges told a completely different story. Nobody books a 450-night suite for a business conference. Nobody orders champagne room service for a work trip. And couples spa treatment, that phrase echoed in my head like an alarm bell. Who was the couple? My hands started shaking. I sat down at Natalie's desk, credit card statement in hand, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe the company had upgraded her room as a reward. Maybe she'd treated herself to spa services. Maybe the couple's treatment was actually just a massage and the description was misleading. But I knew, deep down, in that place where your instincts live before your rational brain catches up, I knew. These charges meant something terrible, something I didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. I went to our shared queue, the desktop we keep in the guest room for storing photos, managing finances, that sort of thing. I logged into our American Express account online, pulled up the full transaction history for the past 2 years. What I found made me physically sick. October 2023, Ritz-Carlton, Boston. Throwers for 2 nights during Natalie's annual National Sales Conference. February 2024, Four Seasons, Chicago. $1,890 for 2 nights during her winter training session. July 2024, St. Regis, San Francisco. $2,140 for 3 nights during West Coast Regional Meeting. The pattern was unmistakable. Every single business conference for the past 18 months involved luxury hotel accommodations, expensive restaurant charges, spa treatments, room service, and champagne. Not a single trip showed charges at a conference center hotel or evidence of actual conference attendance. I went back further. Before October 2023, the travel charges looked normal. Hampton Inn for 129 night, casual restaurant charges under $50, no spa treatments or room service. standard business travel, but starting in October 2023, everything changed. Suddenly, every trip was luxury accommodation, romantic activities, expensive indulgences. Something had shifted 18 months ago, something that turned Natalie's legitimate business travel into elaborate romantic getaways with someone. I felt like I was falling, like the ground had disappeared beneath me, and I was tumbling through space, grasping for something solid that no longer existed. My wife, my partner of 12 years, the person I trusted completely, she'd been lying to me for 18 months, taking romantic trips while I thought she was working. Spending our money, our joint credit card, on hotels and dinners and spa treatments with someone else. I needed more information. I went through every file on that shared computer, searched Derek, a name I vaguely remembered from Natalie's college stories. Derek had been her boyfriend junior and senior year of college before we met. She'd mentioned him occasionally in the context of my college ex, but never in a way that suggested they were still in contact. I found old emails, a folder Natalie must have forgotten to delete, buried deep in archived messages from 2 years ago. The earliest email was from August 2023, 3 months before the first luxury hotel trip. Natalie. I can't believe we reconnected. LinkedIn is good for something after all. It's been, 15 years? You look amazing in your profile photos. I've thought about you so many times over the years, wondered what became of the girl who stole my heart in college. I'm in pharmaceutical distribution now. Funny how we both ended up in related fields. Would love to catch up over coffee if you're ever in Dallas. I'm here for work constantly. Derek, Natalie's response. Derek, so crazy seeing your name pop up on LinkedIn. I've wondered about you too. Pharmaceutical sales keeps me busy, but I'd love to catch up. I'm actually in Dallas next month for a conference. Coffee would be great. Natalie. More emails followed. They'd met for coffee in September 2023. The emails after that meeting had a different tone, flirtier, more nostalgic, references to old times and how much fun we used to have. By early October, they were texting regularly according to email references and planning to meet up again. Then I found the draft email that Natalie had written but never sent, dated October 12th, 2023. Derek. We can't stop thinking about last weekend. I know this is crazy. We're both married. We have lives. We shouldn't be doing this. But being with you again felt like coming home. Like the 15 years in between just disappeared and we were those college kids again, young and free and in love. I don't know what this means or where it can go, but I know I want to see you again. Soon. I stared at that draft email for a long time. Last weekend would have been the Boston trip, the first luxury hotel on the credit card statements. The beginning of their affair, Natalie had reconnected with Derek, her college ex-boyfriend, through LinkedIn. They'd met for coffee, started messaging, met again, and then started a full affair involving regular romantic getaways disguised as business conferences. For 18 months, I kept searching, found Derek's LinkedIn profile. Derek Morrison, 38 years old, pharmaceutical distribution manager based in Dallas. His profile showed he was married. His banner photo featured him with a woman and 2 young kids at what looked like a beach vacation. Derek was married with children, and he was having an affair with my wife. I sat at that computer for 3 hours, piecing together the timeline, the evidence, the scope of the deception. Every business conference for 18 months had been a lie. Every story about boring presentations and networking dinners had been fiction. Every time Natalie kissed me goodbye and promised to call when she got to the hotel, she was lying to my face. She'd been living a double life, dutiful wife at home, passionate affair partner on weekend getaways. Spending our money on luxury hotels and romantic experiences with a man she dated 15 years ago. Coming home and lying about her weekends while I asked supportive questions about her career advancement. I felt nauseated, betrayed, furious, but underneath all that emotion was something colder, a calculating clarity about what I needed to do next. I couldn't confront Natalie with just credit card statements and old emails. She'd deny, minimize, make excuses. She'd say the hotel charges were conference expenses that got billed to our card by mistake. She'd claim the emails were just old friends catching up. She'd gaslight me into questioning what I'd found. I needed undeniable proof. I needed evidence so clear, so comprehensive, so irrefutable that she couldn't lie her way out of it. I needed to catch her in the act. I checked Natalie's calendar. Her next business conference was scheduled for June 14th to 16, 3 weeks away. Midwest Regional Sales Summit in Chicago. I pulled up the American Express history. Sure enough, the St. Regis Chicago was already showing a pending charge for those dates. An idea formed, risky, painful, but absolutely necessary. I was going to go to Chicago too. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I never thought I'd be, a detective investigating his own wife. But I did it quietly, carefully, gathering evidence while acting completely normal at home. I hired a lawyer, consulted with Richard Morrison, a divorce attorney with a reputation for handling infidelity cases strategically, showed him everything I'd found, credit card statements, emails, the timeline. "This is solid documentation," Richard said, reviewing the papers. "Clear pattern of deception, evidence, electronic communications. But if you want undeniable proof that will leverage the divorce heavily in your favor, you need more. You need photos, videos, something that proves active affair, not just suspicious spending." "That's what I'm planning. Her next trip is in 3 weeks. I'm going to the same hotel." Richard nodded. "Document everything, but be careful. Don't do anything illegal like breaking into their room or recording audio in places where there's an expectation of privacy. Photos in public spaces, video in the hotel lobby, documentation of them checking in together, that's all fair game." I also opened a separate bank account and began quietly moving my personal savings, money I'd had before the marriage, inheritance from my grandmother, bonuses that were technically mine individual marital asset, but money I wanted, protected before divorce proceedings started, everything legal and defensible. At home, I acted normal. Supportive husband, interested in Natalie's work, asking about her upcoming Chicago conference. "Big event?" I asked casually one evening. "Yeah, the Midwest Regional is always huge, probably 300 sales reps, long days of sessions and networking." "Lies, all lies," but I smiled and nodded. "Alright, sounds exhausting, but good for your career." "Exactly, these conferences are important for advancement opportunities." More lies, delivered so smoothly, so convincingly. She'd been doing this for 18 months. She was practiced at deception. "What hotel are they putting you in?" "Oh, some conference hotel downtown, nothing fancy." "The St. Regis, one of the fanciest hotels in Chicago, $425 per night." She was lying directly to my face while I watched, knowing exactly where she'd actually be staying. I booked my own reservation at the St. Regis for the same dates, told my boss I needed to take personal days for a family situation, which wasn't technically a lie. Made arrangements to document everything. The night before Natalie's departure, we had dinner together. Normal conversation. She seemed relaxed, looking forward to her conference. Packed her suitcase with business casual clothes, computer bag, the costume of legitimacy. "Have a good trip," I said, kissing her goodbye the next morning. "Learn lots of new sales techniques." "I will. Love you." "Love you too." She drove away at 8 a.m., headed to the airport for her flight to Chicago and her romantic weekend with Derek. I waited 2 hours, made absolutely sure she was gone and wouldn't be coming back for forgotten items. Then I packed my own bag, drove to the airport, and caught an afternoon flight to Chicago. By 6 p.m., I was checked into the St. Regis, positioned in the lobby with a clear view of the entrance, waiting for my wife to arrive, and waiting to capture undeniable proof that would end our marriage and expose her 18 months of lies. I sat in the St. Regis lobby for 2 hours, positioned in a corner with a clear view of the main entrance, pretending to work on my laptop while my heart hammered against my ribcage. The hotel was exactly as expensive as the credit card statement suggested. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, impeccably dressed staff. The kind of place where every detail screamed luxury and romance. Not a business conference venue, not even close. At 8:47 p.m., I saw them. Natalie walked through the main entrance, rolling a small suitcase behind her. She wasn't alone. Next to her was a man I recognized from LinkedIn photos. Derek Morrison, tall, well-dressed, confident. They weren't touching, but they were close. Too close. The body language of people who are more than friends. I raised my phone, started recording video. They walked to the reception desk. Completely oblivious to my presence across the lobby, I was just another business traveler on a laptop, invisible among the other guests. At the desk, Derek handled the check-in while Natalie stood beside him, smiling. I watched through my phone screen, zooming in enough to capture faces clearly. The desk clerk handed Derek a key card. Derek said something I couldn't hear. Natalie laughed, touched his arm. The gesture was intimate, familiar, the touch of someone who'd touched that arm many times before. They turned from the desk, walked toward the elevators. As they waited, Derek put his hand on the small of Natalie's back. She leaned into him. When the elevator arrived, they stepped inside, and just before the doors closed, he kissed her. Not a peck, a real kiss. The kiss of lovers. I had it all on video, clear footage of my wife arriving at a luxury hotel with another man, checking in together, kissing before heading up to their room. My hands shook as I stopped recording. Seeing it in person was different than imagining it. All those credit card statements, all those emails, they'd been abstract evidence of betrayal, but watching my wife of 11 years kiss another man in a hotel lobby made it viscerally, painfully real. I sat there for another 30 minutes collecting myself. Then I went up to my room, 3 floors above theirs according to the floor number Derek had mentioned at check-in, and spent the night trying not to think about what was happening 3 floors below me. The next morning, I was back in the lobby at 8 a.m. I'd barely slept. Spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, alternating between rage and grief, planning my next move. At 9:15 a.m., they emerged from the elevators, dressed casually, laughing about something, holding hands. They looked like any other couple on a romantic getaway. Happy, relaxed, completely unaware they were being documented. I followed them at a distance. They had breakfast at the hotel restaurant. I sat across the dining room, took photos of them sharing food, laughing, Derek feeding Natalie a bite of something from his plate, intimate gestures, couple behavior. After breakfast, they walked to Millennium Park. I stayed far enough back to avoid detection, but close enough to document. More photos, them taking selfies by the bean sculpture, Derek's arm around Natalie's waist, Natalie kissing his cheek while he grinned at the camera. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't drunken conference hookup. This was a full relationship. They had history, inside jokes, comfortable physical intimacy. 18 months of weekend getaways had built something substantial between them. I spent the entire weekend documenting their activities. Saturday afternoon, they returned to the hotel for hours. I couldn't follow them to the room, but the timeline was clear. Saturday evening, they had dinner at a steakhouse. I took photos through the restaurant window of them holding hands across the table, sharing a dessert, the kind of romantic dinner I used to have with Natalie in what felt like a different lifetime. Sunday morning, they had a leisurely breakfast in bed. I knew because room service brought a cart to their room around 10 a.m. and they didn't emerge until noon, both looking rumpled and satisfied. At 2 p.m., they checked out. Derek pulled his car around, loaded Natalie's suitcase, kissed her goodbye in the parking garage. A long kiss, the kiss of people who didn't want to separate. Then she got in her own rental car, and they drove away separately, returning to their separate lives, separate marriages, separate lies. I had everything I needed. 3 days of photo and video evidence. Natalie and Derek checking into a luxury hotel together, behaving as a couple throughout the weekend, intimate gestures, romantic activities, undeniable proof of an ongoing affair. I flew home Sunday evening. Arrived at our house. Natalie wasn't back yet. Her flight was later. I uploaded all the photos and videos to multiple secure locations, cloud storage, external hard drive, copies sent to my attorney, evidence preserved and protected. When Natalie arrived home at midnight, I was in the living room pretending to watch TV. "Hey, honey, how was the conference?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Exhausting, so many sessions. My brain is fried." She dropped her suitcase, came over to kiss me. I let her, stomach churning. Her lips, which had been kissing Derek hours earlier, now pressed against mine in a pantomime of marital affection. "Learn anything useful?" "Oh, the usual. New sales techniques, product updates, networking strategies." She started unpacking her suitcase right there in the living room, hanging up her wrinkled business casual clothes, the costume of her lies. "Did you stay at a nice hotel?" "It was fine, standard conference hotel, nothing special." She said it so easily, so smoothly. The St. Regis Chicago, one of the finest hotels in the city, dismissed as standard and nothing special. "How was the food?" "Conference catering, mediocre at best. I'm starving for real food." She'd eaten at a $200 per person steakhouse 24 hours ago, shared an intimate dinner with her lover, but here she was complaining about imaginary conference catering. I asked more questions. watched her construct elaborate lies about sessions she'd attended, people she'd networked with, breakout workshops on pharmaceutical regulations. Every word fiction, every detail manufactured. She was so practiced at this, so comfortable with deception. After 30 minutes of listening to her lies, I stood up. I'm going to bed. Glad your conference was productive. It was good for my career advancement. She smiled at me, completely unaware that her career advancement story was about to collapse along with our marriage. I didn't sleep that night either. Lay beside my wife, this woman I'd loved for 12 years, knowing I'd spent the weekend watching her betray me with another man, knowing I had evidence that would destroy her carefully constructed double life, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. Monday morning, Natalie left for work at 7 a.m. Normal routine, normal kiss goodbye, normal have a good day, honey. I called in sick to work, spent the morning preparing, printed out credit card statements for the past 18 months, highlighted every luxury hotel charge, every romantic restaurant, every spa treatment, created a timeline document showing each conference with corresponding evidence of actual romantic getaway, compiled the photos and videos from Chicago into a comprehensive digital folder, organized the emails between Natalie and Derek, built an irrefutable case. At noon, I called Richard Morrison, my attorney. I have everything, complete documentation of the affair. What's next? Bring me everything this afternoon. I'll review it and prepare divorce papers. Given the evidence, we'll be filing on grounds of adultery with significant supporting documentation in a no-fault state that doesn't always matter, but this level of documented deception will absolutely impact negotiations on asset division. At 2 p.m., I was in Richard's office. He read everything, credit card statements, photos, videos, emails, the timeline. This is exceptionally comprehensive, he said. Your wife has been conducting an extensive affair for 18 months, using marital funds for luxury getaways and lying systematically about her activities. The documentation is irrefutable. She won't be able to deny any of this. I also want to contact Derek's wife. She deserves to know. Richard paused. That's your right, though it's not necessary for your divorce proceedings. If you do contact her, stick to facts and evidence. Don't be emotional or vindictive. Just provide information. I found Jennifer Morrison on Facebook that evening. Her profile was public, photos of family life, her 2 young kids, posts about elementary school events and soccer games. She looked happy. Her life was about to explode just like mine had. I sent her a private message. Jennifer, you don't know me, but my name is Marcus Chen. I'm married to Natalie Chen, who works in pharmaceutical sales. I've discovered that your husband Derek and my wife have been having an affair for the past 18 months. They've been meeting regularly for romantic weekend getaways while telling us they were traveling for work. I'm not sharing this to cause pain, but because you deserve to know the truth about what your husband has been doing. I have extensive documentation, credit card statements, photos, videos, emails, if you want to see evidence. I'm filing for divorce from Natalie. I thought you should know what's been happening. I'm truly sorry to be the one to tell you this. Marcus. I attached selected photos from the Chicago weekend. Nothing explicit, just images of Derek and Natalie clearly together as a couple, holding hands, kissing, behaving romantically. Her response came 2 hours later. Marcus. Thank you for telling me. I had suspicions, but no proof. Derek has been taking frequent work trips and acting distant. Now I understand why. Yes, I want to see all the evidence you have. I'm meeting with an attorney tomorrow. I'm sorry we're both going through this. Jennifer. I sent her the full documentation, everything I had on Derek and Natalie's affair. She responded with her own evidence, text messages she'd found on Derek's phone, charges on their credit cards she'd questioned, lies he'd told that now made sense. We compared notes, confirmed that every one of Natalie's conferences matched Derek's work trips. They'd coordinated their lies, told their respective spouses matching stories, lived double lives in parallel. On Wednesday, Richard called. Divorce papers are ready. How do you want to serve them? I want to confront her directly. Hand her the papers myself along with all the evidence. That's unusual, but given your documentation, it could be effective. Just keep your composure. Don't let it become a screaming match. Present facts, not emotions. That evening, when Natalie came home from work, I was sitting at the dining room table. In front of me were 3 folders, one containing divorce papers, one containing all the financial evidence, and one containing photos from Chicago. Hey, honey, what's all this? She walked over, curious but not concerned. Sit down, Natalie. We need to talk. Something in my tone made her face change. She sat slowly. What's going on? I found your credit card statements. The ones showing the Ritz-Carlton in Atlanta, the Four Seasons in Chicago, the St. Regis in San Francisco. All your business? Conferences for the past 18 months. Her face went pale. I can explain. I found the emails between you and Derek Morrison, your college ex-boyfriend, the emails about reconnecting, meeting for coffee, how being with him again felt like coming home. Marcus, please? And I followed you to Chicago last weekend. I was there at the St. Regis. I watched you check in with Derek. I have photos of you kissing in the lobby. I have videos of you spending the weekend together as a couple while you told me you were at a sales conference. I opened the folders, spread the contents across the table, credit card statements going back 18 months, emails, photos of her and Derek in Chicago, holding hands in Millennium Park, kissing by the bean sculpture, having romantic dinners, behaving as lovers. Natalie stared at the evidence, face white, hands shaking. How long have you known? I found the first credit card statement 3 weeks ago. I've been investigating ever since. I've documented everything, Natalie. Every lie you've told. Every weekend you spent with Derek while claiming to be at conferences. Every dollar of our money you spent on romantic getaways with another man. I didn't mean for this to happen. Derek and I reconnected and things just developed. I love you, Marcus. This doesn't change what we have. It changes everything we have. Our marriage is based on trust, and you've been lying to me for 18 months, systematically, elaborately, without hesitation. I pushed the third folder across the table. These are divorce papers. I filed on grounds of adultery. Given your extensive documented affair, I'll be seeking favorable asset division. You can't do this. We can work through this. It was a mistake. A mistake is one drunken kiss. What you did was conduct a calculated, ongoing affair involving regular meetups, luxury accommodations on our joint credit card, and elaborate lies about your whereabouts. That's not a mistake. That's a choice you made repeatedly for 18 months. Tears streamed down her face. Please, Marcus, don't do this. I'll end it with Derek. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes. The time for whatever it takes was before you reconnected with your ex-boyfriend, before you started lying about conference trips, before you kissed another man in a hotel lobby. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. What about Jennifer? Does she know? I contacted her Monday, sent her all the evidence. She's filing for divorce from Derek, too. Your affair is destroying 2 marriages, affecting 2 families. Congratulations. Natalie put her head in her hands, sobbing. I never meant to hurt you. Derek made me feel young again, like the person I was before responsibilities and mortgages and routine. It was exciting. So you destroyed an 11-year marriage for excitement? For nostalgia? Because you missed feeling like a carefree college student? I stood up. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. You can stay here until we figure out living arrangement. All communication goes through my attorney from this point forward. His contact information is in the divorce papers. Marcus, please. There's nothing left to say, Natalie. You had 18 months of opportunities to be honest with me, to tell me you were unhappy, that you'd reconnected with an ex, that you wanted something different. Instead, you chose lies and betrayal. We're done. I left that night, checked into a hotel near my office, started the process of separating my life from hers. The divorce proceedings took 4 months. Natalie tried to claim that the affair shouldn't affect asset division, that it was a personal failing separate from our financial partnership. But Richard systematically demolished that argument with documentation of how she'd used marital funds for the affair. Over $35,000 in 18 months spent on luxury hotels, romantic dinners, spa treatments, all on our joint credit card. She didn't just have an affair, Richard argued to her attorney. She funded an elaborate double life with marital assets while lying about business expenses. That's not just infidelity, it's financial deception. The court agreed. I received 65% of our assets in the divorce settlement. The house, most of our investments, favorable division of everything we'd built together. Natalie got 35% and walked away from an 11-year marriage with significantly less than she'd expected. Derek and Jennifer's divorce was even messier. They had kids involved, custody battles, child support calculations. Last I heard, Jennifer got primary custody and Derek was paying substantial support while also dealing with career consequences. His company learned about the affair and transferred him to a less desirable position. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I started dating again. Tentatively at first, carrying trust issues I had to openly acknowledge. Met a woman named Angela through a friend. She was a teacher, divorced herself after her ex-husband's infidelity, understood the complicated process of healing from betrayal. Our first few dates, I was paranoid, checked her stories against reality, looked for inconsistencies, waited for lies that never came. Angela was patient with my trust issues, understood that healing takes time. "I'm not going to rush you," she said after our fifth date when I apologized for being emotionally guarded. "You've been through trauma. Trust needs to be rebuilt slowly. I'm willing to wait." 1 year after discovering Natalie's affair, I was doing better. Not healed completely, that kind of betrayal leaves scars, but functional, dating Angela seriously, rebuilding my capacity for trust. I'd sold the house, too many memories of Natalie, too much associated pain, and bought a smaller condo that was entirely mine. Natalie, from what mutual friends reported, was struggling. She'd tried to continue the relationship with Derek after both divorces finalized, but it fell apart with. Turned out the excitement they'd shared was tied to the secrecy, the forbidden nature of sneaking around. Once they could be together openly, the chemistry disappeared. Derek moved back to Dallas, reconnected with his kids, started rebuilding his life. Natalie was alone. She'd reached out a few times, emails apologizing, asking if we could talk, claiming she'd grown and understood what she'd lost. I never responded. There was nothing to say. She'd had 11 years of legitimate marriage and chose to trade it for 18 months of hotel weekends with an ex-boyfriend. 2 years after the divorce, Angela and I moved in together, slowly building something based on honesty and transparent communication. We had explicit conversations about expectations, about trust, about what we needed from each other. No assumptions, no ambiguity, no room for secrets. "I need to know where you are when you're traveling," I told her early in our relationship. Not because I don't trust you, but because my ex-wife spent 18 months lying about business trips and I can't do that again. "I understand. I'll share my itinerary, check in regularly, give you hotel information, whatever you need to feel secure." That level of transparency felt healthy, not controlling. Angela offered it willingly, understood my trauma, wanted to help me heal rather than resent my caution. 3 years after discovering Natalie's affair, I proposed to Angela. Different proposal than with Natalie, simpler, more honest, based on who we actually were rather than who I wanted us to be. She said yes. We got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Nothing elaborate, no pretense, just genuine commitment between two people who'd both survived betrayal and chose to trust again. At the wedding, my brother gave a toast. "Marcus has been through hell, betrayal by someone he trusted completely, but he came out the other side stronger, wiser, and with someone who deserves his trust. Here's to second chances and honest love." 4 years after that weekend in Chicago, I rarely thought about Natalie anymore. She was a chapter in my past, a painful lesson about trust and deception, but not a defining feature of my present. I'd learned that people can lie with extraordinary skill, that trust should be earned continuously, not assumed permanently, and that sometimes the person you think you know best is actually a stranger. Last I heard, Natalie was still in pharmaceutical sales, still taking real business trips now, still single. Friends said she'd dated a few people, but nothing serious, nothing lasting. She'd traded 11 years of solid marriage for 18 months of exciting affair and ended up with neither. Derek had remarried. Someone he'd met through work, apparently learned from his mistakes, or maybe he just got better at hiding. I didn't know and didn't care. 5 years after finding that credit card statement, I'm 42, happily remarried to Angela. We're talking about buying a house together, maybe starting a family despite both being older, building a life based on honest communication and earned trust. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled the confrontation with Natalie. If I wish I'd given her a chance to explain, to apologize, to save the marriage. My answer is always the same: no. Because Natalie had 18 months of opportunities to be honest. 18 months of weekends where she chose Derek and luxury hotels over honest me. 18 months of lies told to my face with practiced ease. By the time I confronted her, She'd made her choice hundreds of times. She'd chosen deception over truth, affair over marriage, excitement over stability. I just made the decision to stop being the person she was lying to. The credit card statement that started everything, the Ritz-Carlton Atlanta receipt that caught my eye, I kept it. Not as torture, but as a reminder. A reminder that trust should be verified, that love without honesty is meaningless, and that sometimes the worst betrayals come from the people you trust most. Natalie thought she could manage a double life indefinitely: weekend lover and weeknight wife, luxury hotels and elaborate lies, Derek and Marcus existing in separate compartments of her life that would never intersect. She was wrong, and that miscalculation cost her everything: her marriage, her financial security, her reputation among friends, and her relationship with the man she'd betrayed everything for. I paid attention to that credit card statement when my instincts said something was wrong. I gathered evidence methodically. I confronted her with irrefutable documentation, and I walked away from someone who'd proven she couldn't be trusted. That's not revenge, that's self-preservation, that's recognizing that some betrayals are too complete, too calculated, too sustained to forgive. And 5 years later, I don't regret it for a second.